listening to We Watch Movies.
I'm Ava.
And I'm Jenna.
And we watch movies. So this week we watched Cherry, which is a movie. Of course it's a movie. It's an Apple original film directed by the Russo brothers. It is an adaptation of the book Cherry by Nico Walker. It's about this guy who goes to war and then he comes back and he has PTSD and he becomes a drug addict and yeah. So that's the gist of it. Jenna, what were your initial reactions?
At times it would be hard to watch, and it's not a movie that I necessarily like. I enjoyed it, but not all of the time. But it definitely doesn't deserve a 37% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, literally, I feel like people just wanted to not like it because it's not a bad movie. I mean, it's not perfect. So I watched it 3 times.
For research.
Well, the first one was because I was excited because it aired on Apple TV, and I was like, oh my god, this is the day. This is Cherry Day. So I watched it, and I was really excited about it. And then the second time was the day after that, when I watched it with my mom and my sister, because we were planning on doing that anyways, but I couldn't wait for the first one. And then the third time was just research purposes yesterday, so that it would be fresh in my mind for you guys. There's absolutely no ulterior motive for me watching this film 3 times. Just pure dedication to this podcast. And
okay, Ava.
Well, I think definitely there are parts that are difficult to watch, and I think that's definitely intentional. It's not like they're bad scenes that are just bad because they are accidentally bad. It's like there are moments that are gory or uncomfortable, but I remember one of the main things that the filmmakers were trying to do when they made this. They were very adamant that they didn't want to glamorize or romanticize addiction, which is like, you know, there have been I haven't seen Euphoria, so I can't comment on it, but there have been people who have criticized that for glamorizing addiction, and then a lot of times with 13 Reasons Why, people are saying that romanticizes suicide and everything. And so they were very adamant that they were not trying to do that, and I definitely think they succeeded.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Yeah. One of the things that I noticed a lot of critics commenting on for this movie was they said that the casting was bad, which I strongly disagree with. Well, they were so one of the comments I saw was that they miscast Tom Holland because Tom Holland looks too friendly. And I had a lot of issues with that comment because I feel like the character is not supposed to look like a mean person. You know, you're supposed to sympathize with him. And especially at the beginning, he's supposed to look like a nice guy and everything. And then here they are, and like the critics are saying, oh, Tom Holland looks too nice to play a bank robber. And I mean, even in the movie, they're like, oh, my face is like, I need to act like I'm crazy because my face has a lot of sadness, and so if I don't act crazy, they'll think I'm weak or something. Like, that's literally something that they said in the film. And so I don't know. I don't think it's a valid criticism to claim that Tom Holland looks too nice for this character. And I think that, yeah.
So much of this movie is kind of like a descent for him, almost. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not, like, saying he was, like, perfect when the movie started, but it's, like, there's a far cry from being, like, a troubled college student to being, like, a drug-addicted bank robber by the end of it. So, like, I feel like in another reality, if different decisions had been made, Cherry would have been a different person. So, like, it doesn't matter what you look like, you can still be capable of doing other things.
Yeah, and I think overall in this film the acting was really, really good. Like, I didn't feel like there was any hamminess to it. It didn't feel fake, I guess. And it was moving at a lot of parts. I don't know if you disagree or not, because some people didn't think it was good acting. I thought it was great acting. I don't know, what did you think?
Was Emily the name of, like, the girlfriend?
Yes.
Like, sometimes I couldn't tell, especially in the beginning when they were both in college still, if her character was supposed to come off as, like, slightly emotionless, or if that was the acting. And I mean, it didn't really matter because it worked for the character, but it was a little weird. It got better as the movie went on.
I think there's a lot about the Emily character where she, like, self-sabotages when things get good, and she has a lot of walls up, like, you can tell that. Like she talks about how she has the abandonment issues with her, like, dad, and how she was abused as a kid and stuff. And, you know, when Nico, I believe his name is, they never say his name, which is kind of weird, but it's a autobiographical book by Nico Walker. So Nico, I guess, when he tells Emily that he loves her, and she just kind of looks at him and goes, "Thank you." Like, that's the first part where you know that, like, there's a lot going on with her. And then, like, you could see that her walls are up and she's not gonna be vulnerable for him. And then immediately the first thing she does is run away. So, you know, things are getting good for her finally, and she's running away. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people do in the world, and that was kind of a very realistic thing. I feel like if she was coming across as emotionless in the beginning, it's probably just because her walls were very high. And then later on, I felt like, you know, she was either numb or she was having, like, a panic attack. So
Yeah, no, I'm not saying, like, there was definitely, like, no reason. It was just, like, I don't know, like, sometimes it didn't feel like an intentional thing, but that could have just been me because, I mean, I don't act. What do I know? And I'm looking at the Wikipedia, and I think they don't call the main character by his name throughout the whole movie, but Wikipedia refers to him as Cherry.
Oh. Okay, I don't know, because I'm actually, I purchased a book, you guys. I purchased Cherry, and it's coming, like, tomorrow or something. So I wanted to read it. So, we'll see what he goes by in the book. Yeah, I don't know, because I've seen interviews about this movie, and the actors have referred to him as both Nico and Cherry, so, the protagonist. Let's just call him that, the protagonist.
We could just call him Tom Holland, right? That's not weird.
Well, I guess we can. I mean, it's just kind of weird saying, oh, and then Tom Holland gets addicted to heroin and starts robbing banks.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, but no, so the first time, I don't know if it was just because I was, like, shooketh because this was Tom Holland and he wasn't being Spider-Man. So I don't know if it was because of that or if it was, like, actually getting to me, but I got, I felt emotional at least, like, 3 different points in the movie, but, like, the whole thing is very intense, you know? So it's not, there were some places that were like, oh, I think one of the headlines was said that it was a miserable watching experience. I'm like, no. Like, what? It's depressing, and it's very intense, and there's very little reprieve, but that's kind of on purpose, and not every movie can be happy, so, like,
Yeah, like, the only time I was miserable when it was, like, really, like, hammering, like, and I appreciated that they did this because, like, as you brought up before, like, that they didn't want to glamorize, like, addiction. But I also really, really don't like when people throw up in movies. It's a thing. It's my thing. I just yeah. I'm sorry. I know that there was a purpose, and I can appreciate that purpose in art. But I'm sorry. Did you have to do it that much?
Yeah, so I know you have an issue with that.
I do. I shouldn't bring it up every time it happens, but it keeps happening.
I think the part that made me uncomfortable was both the scene when he like had to shove somebody's intestines back inside of his body. And then also the scene where he took like he had the needle and he was really going through it because Emily was in the hospital, and he was like he had his like breakdown in the car and he started stabbing himself with a needle. Like that was intense, and it was so it made me feel pain watching that part, and I was like, how could and it just I mean, just knowing that there are parts that make us so, like, there are parts that give us such, like, a I don't know if visceral would be the word. I don't know what visceral means. But, like, such a visceral reaction. Just watching a scene in a movie can show you how vivid they make it, and how they really, like, they're highlighting all the down points, and they're showing these emotional moments with the characters. I'm really showing you, like, if you're reacting to just seeing that, what do you think the character is going through? And I don't know, I feel like that made me, like, connect more with the story that was being told. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this movie definitely, like, is intense with the things it does portray on screen, and it doesn't shy away from anything. It tends to just go for it, which is a double-bladed sword, because some people will look at it and they'll say, like, wow, I'm glad you went for it, and it, like, really, like, gets the emotions, but then other people are like, that might be, like, a bit too much, and it's a fine line to walk, and, like, I don't know, I'm never really one to be able to, like, tell when something goes too far, unless it 100% goes too far. And I don't think this movie did that, but, like, I don't know, maybe there were some parts where they could have dialed it back and it still would have had an effect. I'm not really sure, but it definitely, like, goes there at times.
Yeah, well, there's certainly no way in heck I'm ever joining the army now. Well, actually, no, I didn't have plans on joining the army. But if they ever make women get drafted and I get drafted to the army, I will certainly have a panic attack because of this movie.
The conversation we had in A-Push about if women have to go into the draft.
Yeah, my friends were like, "Oh, let's get matching prosthetics and cut off each other's legs." I am a feminist until we go to war. Then patriarchy take the lead.
Oh my god.
No, but it just, like, that part where his friends were all, like, murdered and stuff, and that was just really sad. And, you know, it like, he was hanging on, and then that happened. That was pretty wild, you know?
Yeah, because if anything, that kind of, like, marked, like, a turning point for him as a character, because, like, as you said, he was hanging on, and then when it kind of, like, cuts to him going home, that's when he first starts, like, addressing the audience directly on screen, which the only time we had ever really seen him do that was when he was robbing the bank, that we learn is in the epilogue of the movie.
Yeah.
So, like, that kind of, like, shows how, like, after that, his, like, kind of, like, sense of reality almost is kind of warped.
The whole breaking the fourth wall thing, I thought that they pulled it off. I know it's, like, an acquired taste or whatever, because some people really don't like that, and some people do. I don't like it a lot of times, but I feel like it was better than just doing straight narration or something throughout the whole thing, you know?
Yeah, when the movie opened with that, like, first bank robbing scene, and, like, Tom Holland is, like, directly talking to the audience, and they're doing all the things with the lighting, I was so into it. And then I was kind of mad that the movie, like, never really kind of, like, hit that same moment for me. Because I know that, like, fourth wall breaking 2 is a very acquired taste, but this movie, how they introduced it, I thought it was, like, really great. But then they, like, and I'm not saying they should have, like, overdone it, but I feel like they could have done it a little more. Because, like, that was the thing that, like, I was super impressed with, that I thought was really great. Like, I was kind of maybe going to, like, just rewatch the opening of this movie again before we started this, but then I got distracted. But I don't know, I thought that was done really well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moments in the movie, like, there's some moments when he talks to the screen, but there's a lot of moments when he'll, like, look at the camera, but that talking, he does it, like, 3 times throughout the movie, and I wish he did it more because I think that makes it so unique, and it was effective, I think, in returning to the whole idea of this is it's an autobiography and it's telling his story and he's talking to us, and that was I think kind of helpful, and I thought that was cool, and I liked it, and I wish they did it more, because like but there were times like there was this one time when Pills like was driving and he was like, yeah, you're a junkie with PTSD, and then the main character, he just looks at the camera and he's like just has this like look on his face. I thought that was funny. It wasn't like, I don't know if it was hilarious per se, but it was like kind of like, oh yeah, Pills is stupid, I agree with you, sir.
It kind of made you feel like a part of the movie. It kind of like grabbed your attention because like instead of you just being a passive person involved with this story, it kind of pulls you into it, and like it makes you feel complicit almost, and you don't know why, but the main character like just keeps talking to you and you're like, what do you want me to do about it?
Yeah, he doesn't talk to you at all when he's like serving time in prison, which I get that that's more of a montage at the end, but like I wish there was more from him at the end, I guess, because I mean we see him get sober and everything, and it's a really satisfying ending, I thought. Just from the moment where he gives that money to Black and then he goes out into the road and just turns himself in, I feel like the ending was really satisfying, and it shows kind of that redemption, that light at the end of the tunnel for people who are going through this kind of stuff. It's like once you've hit rock bottom, there, like, I mean, it's going to be difficult, but you can make your way back. And I really liked the ending. I kind of wish that we could, that he could be like, hey guys, this was nice. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
well, not that exactly.
He opened with a monologue. I feel like he should close it with one.
Yeah, because like there was no dialogue in the ending. I mean, they had the symmetry between when he came home from war versus when he got out of prison. It's very, very similar in how they shot it and how he looks over at Emily and then she smiles and he smiles. So that part is very symmetrical, except it doesn't have, I don't know, I feel like it doesn't have the same impact as the very opening did. But it was still very impactful, it's just a different impact.
Yeah, so I've been trying to think of like why maybe that was done the way it was, like thematically, and the only thing I could like maybe think of was there was this recurring idea that passed between like Cherry and Emily of having like a noise in their head and how they kind of just want it all to stop. And watching it kind of made sense that like Cherry isn't saying anything and it's like just like the music at the end, and like there's no one else around but him and Emily. It's kind of like he maybe found that quiet and there's nothing going through his head in that moment. He can just be there. I don't know, that's not the strongest thing I've ever come up with, but oh well.
I don't know, I just feel like, I mean, like I said, it was still impactful. It was just kind of a different impact because the very beginning, like even like it's a monologue. It's just him. He's the only character that like matters, and it's really opening up. It's his story, and that's like kind of how the rest of it is. I mean, there's obviously parts with Emily and everything, but really it's his story. And you know, at the end, having the symmetry, rather than rather than reflecting the beginning, it's reflecting his reunion with Emily. It makes it more of a, like, the ending is resolved, like it's the ending, it's about them as a couple rather than him as a character, which, I mean, both are completely valid storylines in the movie, and I think definitely both of them deserve to get resolved. I just feel like there could have been, I just wanted more of like his inner thoughts and stuff as a character. at the end, which you probably get some of that in the book. Like I said, I haven't read it yet. And obviously the montage is all of him, but you don't really get his thoughts. You don't like see what he thinks and feels every day as he's getting better. And then, I don't know, I feel like the thoughts of the couple are kind of self-explanatory there. But I just feel like we could have gotten more of a solo resolution as well, in addition to their couple resolution.
Yeah, because I mean, throughout that montage at the end, there were definitely moments where we could have gotten a thought or two from Cherry. I think it would have been like there were definitely like opportunities, because there's one point where like the camera is just like slowly sliding through different parts of the prison compound, and it gets to like Cherry sitting on a bench listening to music, and then like the music kind of stops for a second, and like I kind of thought that he would like look at the camera and say something, but then the camera just kind of pauses there, and then it just moves back on, and then we get Cherry with a funky little mustache, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think that would have been a perfect place to get some thoughts from him, because like at that point he's almost sober or decently sober. I don't know how long that is away from when he got put in, because when he first gets taken to prison, you know, he's seizing on the ground and throwing up blood, which there's actually a funny story behind that scene. I'll tell you later.
Do I want to know?
Yeah, I think you do.
Oh.
It's not yeah, but that's like obviously a very upsetting thing to see, like this character that you've been rooting for better or worse, that you've been rooting for throughout the whole movie, is really going through it, but you know that it's all for the best because he's gonna get better, and you know it's the only way that he can get better at this point. So I don't know, that was pretty. I feel like there was a lot of intense moments that could have been highlighted more in the prison sequence.
Yeah. Can I ask a weird question?
Yes.
This is kind of off topic.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you notice the names of the banks they were
robbing? Oh
yes.
Oh my god, I love that. It was even in when he first enlisted, the guy he was talking to was named Sergeant Whomever, and I feel like that was such a good little bit of sort of reminding you that we're in this character's head anyways. They did a lot. They had a lot of there was a lot of filmmaking choices like that, and then the titles of the banks, like Capitalist One or Credit None, like all of these things were really cool. And then they had obviously that character's name, and then there were like these other moments, like the bank teller, everything, like their faces would be blacked out until he's like actually robbing them, and that's the first time where their faces are unblacked out. And then there's like all this other stuff, like how they represent his drug trips, and how he did basic training, how they made him look like a child at one point because he was like, oh, it feels like we're doing make-believe and stuff. There were all these things, like on watching it so many times, you could pick up on all these different places where the filmmakers were like, oh my god, this would get our point across, and it's just so subtle and it's so cool. And it's like every time I was watching this over and over again, I saw another place where the filmmakers like decided to do something, whether it was in the background or just in the ambiance of something, and it was really cool.
Yeah, because I remember I was watching the movie and like I knew that like the subtitles called like Pills and Coke, like Pills, Coke, or Pills and Coke. The subtitles were like a little inconsistent sometimes with like names, but that's okay. But I was like, that's a thing. But I was like, I didn't think too much about it, but then like I'm watching it and they're sitting outside a bank and I look at the name of the bank and I can't even say it on this because it's a swear. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute now. And then like I start noticing all of these things and I'm like, oh, that's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was clearly a ton of thought put into this. And I don't know, I mean, most of that was probably just the Russo brothers being the Russo brothers because they're awesome. I stan. We all know this, I stan. But yeah, so there was also, what else did they do? They did something else that was really cool. What else? Oh yeah, there was that scene. Okay, that scene in the theater made me so uncomfortable because I felt Emily's embarrassment when that happened, and I felt like you could feel it in your core just how embarrassed she was. But then when he went into the bathroom and had a panic attack, and you could, like, in the mirror, he's staring back at himself with like shame and disgust, and then he punches the mirror, and like that's super powerful, I thought, because it's just showing him how you know, it's kind of that physical embodiment of those thoughts that he was talking about, like, maybe if I had died in Iraq, she would have been happier. You know, all this stuff. It's like, it's your fault that Emily's not happy. It's your fault. You are worthless. And he has a lot of those thoughts throughout the whole film, and I feel like that was just a really good way of just personifying those thoughts.
Yeah, and I remember, like, as soon as he ducked down and, like, I realized that they were doing, like, the reflection in the mirror is different than the person you're actually watching, I was like, oh, okay, we are really going with this now. And then, like, he punches it, and, like, first of all, I felt pain, and then there's the silhouette in the background that, like, flinches back, and, like, I love how you can't see, like, anything at all of that person. They're just a silhouette. Because, like,
Yeah.
I feel like the audience can kind of, like, put themselves into that person's shoes, almost. I don't know. That's a weird thing to kind of be thinking about in a scene like that, but, like, I don't know.
Yeah, they do that a lot with characters that, like, they do that where they make characters just silhouettes. Like, they did that with the bank tellers at the beginning, before he starts robbing them, and then they become human to him. And then also when he's in the hospital, the policeman and the nurse that's talking to him, they're just silhouettes. And they don't really become human to them. And then I think that's part of him, like, being numb to his surroundings in that scenario. And not, like, it's those moments when he's not thinking about the person that he's interacting with or the other people around him. They just are, like, silhouettes to him. And then, like, when he recognizes that human in front of him and how that's a person, it's a living, breathing human with their own life and their fear and whatever, that's when they aren't silhouettes to him. And I thought that was really interesting, because I've never seen that done in a movie before. I've never seen people do something like that.
Yeah, I love stuff like that, because, like, again, with this opening scene that, like, I don't know, I thought it was really great. But first we had everything with, like, Cherry talking right to the camera, but then it did all of these great things with the lighting and especially, like, the silhouettes, and I was like, okay, I'm sold. And it also acts as, like, a good overture to the rest of your movie, because it introduces a lot of, like, these things that they're doing, like, technically, that also, like, play into different themes and messages that they're trying to portray to the audience. So while, like, you have your prologue that introduces the story, I feel like that bank robbing scene is the one that kind of acts like the overture to, like, a lot of the things that they're going to do.
Yeah, and they mess around with, like, lighting a lot too. Like, they do that in the overture. It feels like he has a spotlight on him, and there's a spotlight on him and Vanessa, the bank teller, at the beginning. And then they also do that in other places too. Like, there's this part when you remember when Emily, like, this is at the beginning of the Dope Life section. Emily asks for her eggs on toast like a sandwich. And then when she leaves, they show that sandwich untouched with a used needle on top of it, and they put it under a spotlight. And it's really interesting because it's like it's showing that the heroine is taking precedent over, like, breakfast. So it's like how she's putting that as a necessity before other things. And I feel like that was really effective too, and I feel like that kind of went unnoticed, because I know that when I was watching it with my family, nobody really commented on that part. So
yeah, and there were so many things. Like, I remember I texted you partway through. It was probably in, like, the Dope Life section, I'm thinking. I don't know, it was probably a little after they do, like, their whole thing where they throw up a couple times, and I was like, Ava, how have you watched this movie, like, 3 times? I was just like, I won't be able to even think about watching this movie for, like, a week. But then I finished it, and I was like, I kind of want to watch it again, just to see all the things I noticed.
Oh my god, it's just, it has so much replay value, and it's also like its message is really good too, because it's not glamorizing addiction, and it's drawing attention to the opioid crisis, and it's showing how, you know, war messes you up and stuff, and it's highlighting all of these issues in the world, and how like the system's broken in a lot of ways, and it's showing like just a lot of things that people need to talk about. And so the more you watch it, the better you are as a person. You're a better human if you watch this movie.
You know, I'm definitely glad I watched it on your insistence.
Yeah, last week I'm like, oh, okay guys, I'll tell you if Sentinel or Cherry is better if I can try to steer the conversation of the next podcast episode to relate to Cherry. And, well, as you can see, I definitely steered the conversation to relate to Cherry this week. So, go me. I'm pretty cool.
I really didn't want to watch yesterday, guys.
And this is better than Sentinel, so don't watch Sentinel because this is better. You want to see like a story of a soldier with PTSD and addiction and stuff? That's this movie, not Sentinel. Sentinel's lame. You don't need to watch it. Boo.
Don't listen to Rotten Tomatoes, guys. Don't do it.
Yeah, because didn't Sentinel do really well on Rotten Tomatoes, or like decent?
Yeah, I got like a 71% last I looked at it. What was it?
Ew, why? But like...
Oh, it has a 63 now, but...
Okay, well, yeah. Cherry had 40 the other day. And it's just like, people keep ranking this low. And see, the thing, I've noticed a lot of critics being harsh on things. And I feel like that's just because... You know, as a critic, it's easier to find things that are wrong with something than to praise it. At least in my opinion, the longer you think about something, the more you find problems with it, and the more you start to dislike it. Because if you pick something apart too much, you start finding all the little kinks and the problems and anywhere that it could have been better. And obviously, nothing's gonna be perfect, but like, if you find it, the more you think about it, the more kinks you find. And the more kinks you find, the more your brain starts to think that you don't like the movie. And so for somebody who's sitting down and trying to write an article that'll first of all catch people's eye, like with a headline like Tom Holland's miscasting in Cherry, or Cherry is a miserable viewing experience, or something like that, like people are gonna watch it. If he's just like, right, Cherry was a pretty good movie with some flaws, but it was good, nobody's gonna click on that. Some people will, because they just want to watch or read a review, but like, more people are gonna click on the outrageous stuff, and so you want to put more flair into your piece, and you want to just dig into the movie, and the more you do that, the more you dislike it, and the easier it is to criticize it. And I feel like that's kind of where when some of these movies are more like, I don't know, I just feel like it's easier to be mean about a movie or just any work of art, that sometimes when movies try to be something really different, like this has a lot of different stuff going on that I don't see in a lot of movies, that probably kind of hurt its case a little bit. Obviously that's not all of it, and people are entitled to their opinion, but yeah.
You know what this kind of makes me think of?
Hmm?
I was watching an hour-long video today about Ratatouille.
Yeah.
And it talked about the critic article at the end of it. And, like,
yeah,
the idea of, like, critiquing things and saying that they're bad just because you can. Because it's not really taking a risk to say something is bad, but it's more of a risk to, like, talk about, like, an underdog. And, I mean, I'm also not saying that, like, if you don't like something, that doesn't mean you should critique it and say that it's bad. But I don't know, I feel like there was, like, an article going around about WandaVision about how, like, one of the directors or something was, like, already apologizing, like, a couple days before the finale came out about how it ended. And it really just made me think about how, like, so much of, like, the media we consume has a culture around it that kind of, like, builds up these expectations and like theorizing, and that's all like fun and great, and I mean like, yeah, film theory or whatever, but like we also like make these expectations and we take it out on the people that make the thing that we're consuming when they don't happen. And like I lost my train of thought here, but it's just interesting because like, Ava, you had these big expectations for this movie, and the Rotten Tomatoes score came out initially, and you were like, oh, well, that's interesting. I'm paraphrasing here if you couldn't tell. But like, at the end of the day, like, it still seems like you had a good experience with this movie. But then like, me, who had no idea what this movie was and had no expectation, I knew what the score was, and I went into it, and I had a really great time too. So it's interesting, just like the things that we can like still enjoy and the things that we don't, and how so much of like we're exposed to that has nothing to do with the movie shapes everything that we think about the movie of.
Yeah, like so when I went to the theater, like not last week, but the week before, I saw Chaos Walking, and they had it at like I don't remember, like a 20-something% or whatever. And I was worried about it, but I feel like part of the and then I came out and I was like, oh my god, the critics were so harsh, and I feel like a part of that is because they expected it to be bad, and they had that confirmation bias because, you know, it had to go through so many delays, and there were problems in production and everything, and they had to do a ton of reshoots, and it was deemed unreleasable at one point and stuff, and all these things, and then people are like, oh, it's gonna suck, and then they go see it, and they're like, oh yeah, it totally sucked, but also, like, first of all, you're not the demographic, probably, because it's for, like, young adults, like, that's where the book is from, and then you have, like, these, I actually, no, I don't know who was critiquing it, but I feel like some of the critics were probably not the target demographic. But also, like, they were commenting on stupid stuff. Like, they were like, oh, the special effects that appear around their head were unforgivable. Which, like, no, they were not, first of all. But just, they were very harsh on this one movie, and I feel like there was a lot of confirmation bias that went into that, and they just didn't want to like it. And that's another situation in which, like, I feel like there was just a good movie that got treated kind of harshly.
Yeah, like, I know that there are a lot of times, like, I mean, all of my examples would be with books, that, like, books get, like, really, really hyped up, and then you read them and you're like, I mean, it was good. I don't understand why everyone's talking about it. But it's disappointing because, like, then you start to wonder, like, what would I think of this thing if I lived in a bubble and I didn't know anything about it? So, I don't know. That's something that I find interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It just, regardless, if you see a movie that you want to see, or if you're gonna watch a movie and it's coming out and you're, like, excited about it and the critics say it sucks, that's not necessarily a reason not to watch it. And it's always good to make your own opinions on things because, you know, you can never tell. Like, a lot of times, like, also there's that sort of hive mentality, I guess, or mob mentality, where, you know, people will start saying that this movie's bad, and then you'll have confirmation bias. You'll expect it to be bad. You'll go in, it'll be bad to you, and then you tell other people that it's bad. So just, regardless of what the Rotten Tomatoes score is, or regardless of what people are saying around you, just try to keep an open mind. If you want to see a movie, see it. If you want to enjoy it, enjoy it. And make your own opinions about things, because you definitely don't need to agree with us. You don't need to agree with some random person from the LA Times. You don't have to agree with some other YouTuber on the on the internet. That's a word. And you don't need to agree with even your friends or your family. If you like a movie, or if you don't like a movie, that's completely your opinion, and we'll still love you.
Yeah, I don't know how this conversation turned into one that we could probably bring to Malcolm from Malcolm and Marie, but I don't know, I guess we did it.
Okay, But do you want to hear the funny story about that one scene in the jail?
I don't think I really have a choice, Ava.
Okay, so I was before this movie came out, because I wanted to see it when my parents were like, yeah, you can go to the movie theater, because it was supposed to come out in movies or in theaters. Sorry, it didn't come out anywhere near me though. Apparently, it was select theaters or something. So I had to wait until it came out on Apple TV. But I was reading a lot about it, and I was watching interviews and stuff. And in one interview, Tom Holland was like, "Oh, there was this one day we're shooting this scene where I'm like in a jail cell and I'm seizing and throwing up blood, and I decided to send a video of that to my mom and say, this is how today is going." And naturally, she was very upset. And he was like, yeah, that probably wasn't my wisest move. Because he was talking about how his parents like to go to see his movies, and they like the moments where they can be like, yeah, that's my boy, but there wasn't really any of those moments in this movie.
Yeah. I can see that happening.
Hey mom, look at this video of me seizing and throwing up vomit in a jail cell.
What a lad.
And I mean, that wasn't that definitely wasn't a tame scene. Like, it was very upsetting visually, and like, if you're a mother and you see that.
It was even worse in the final one because it was in slow motion.
Yeah.
It's worse.
Oh my god, I don't know. It's like, I like finding funny stories about like different scenes in movies, and just like thinking about like what goes on when people make movies, and like bloopers and stuff. Those are fun. So I know they've been working on this movie for a while, because like everything got delayed because of Pandemic Land.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, but I don't know, it was funny. Oh, I watched another one where he was like reacting to scenes from the movie, and there's this one part in the movie where he has a British accent, and he said like he realized it while he was reacting. He was like, oh, that's a British accent, and he was like, I need to tell them that we need to dub one line, but they never did. He's on the phone, and it's after all his friends are dead, and he's on the phone, and Emily's like, are you seeing bad things? And he goes, yeah, a little.
Yeah.
And he was like, that's not supposed to be like that. I don't know, that was a very good video. If you ever want to watch Tom Holland reacts to Cherry, it's cute. I liked it. And you know, I did not know that Sierra Bravo could. I forgot she existed. First of all, is she? Not to mention that I kind of had reserves about her going into it, because I thought she looked like a 14-year-old, which she kind of does.
Yeah. That was definitely a little strange.
But like the one thing that I know her from is Big Time Rush.
I knew it. I knew she was in Big Time Rush. Okay, continue.
And so I never pictured her in a role like this. Well, I never pictured her at all, because I didn't realize who she was until this movie. And then I was like, who is this lady? And I googled her, and I was like, Big Time Rush? Wow, this is a step from Big Time Rush. I don't know what she's done in the meantime, because I haven't researched her, but I did follow her on Instagram. And, yeah.
I meant to Google if she was in Big Time Rush, because I was watching this movie and I was like, oh my god, I know her from something. And then, like, you know that Leonardo DiCaprio meme from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where he's pointing at the TV? That's what I did when I realized.
So wait, are you a Big Time Rush stan? Because I barely watched it.
Well, I watched it when I was younger. I don't think I'm a stan. It would just be on, and I'd be like, guess I'll watch it.
Guess I'll die.
yeah. Same energy, Ava.
I don't know. I maybe watched like a couple episodes because there was nothing else on, but I definitely, like, I wouldn't have recognized her. I just Googled her and it said that she was in Big Time Rush. So I was like, oh my gosh, wow, child star. We like to see it.
I know, like, probably, like, right before the pandemic, a friend and I were hanging out, and we didn't know what else to do, so we just went through Netflix looking at what they had, and they had, like, one of the Big Time Rush movies from when they're, like, in London or whatever. So, like, we just watched it, and just ironically had a good time. But that's about as much interaction I've had with anything Big Time Rush related in the past, like, 7 years.
Oh, but so wait, was that like 7 years ago?
Well, no, because I don't know when the show was actually on, but it can't have been less than 7 years ago, I'm thinking.
There was another guy in this movie who was in, what is his name? He was in Midsummer. I don't remember his name. He's like the third person. Like when you click on the movie, it says starring Tom Holland, Sierra Bravo, and this guy. His name is if my phone will load the cast ever.
That's an
I feel like we
interesting
need. His name is Jack Rayner. He played Pills and Coke. Oh my gosh, there was that girl from Lab Rats. She played Madison Kowalski. I recognized her. She was barely in it, but she was there. She looks like 10 years older than Sierra Bravo in their pictures on the cast. I'm looking at it now. She looks so much older than her. They're like the same age, though.
So weird because Sierra Bravo never looked the right age for anything. And then at the end, they like did something to her to make her look older, and it just did not work.
She would be really good in like a live action Tim Burton movie.
Yeah.
Because she I don't know. I feel it because she has like that, you know how Tim Burton characters have like round faces and big eyes and then like long legs?
Yeah.
She would be good in a movie like that. Same with like Anya Taylor-Joy. She would be good in a Tim Burton movie. I don't know where Tim Burton came from, but
Here now.
oh my gosh, Jamie Brewer was in this. She is in American Horror Story, or was in the first couple of seasons. Oh my god, what is her name? American Horror Story. In the first season, I can't remember her name. Oh my god, her character name. This is gonna bug me. Aggressively Googles. Oh, Addie. She plays Addie Langdon. Nan in Coven. So, Addie Langdon in the first season. She plays Nan in Coven. She plays, Marjorie in Freak Show. Yeah, no, she's in a lot of those seasons. She's cool. Oh my gosh. Did you notice Tom Holland's brother was in this too?
No?
Okay, so there were a couple of cameos in this movie. One of them was his brother. He was in that one scene where he finds out about the party at Maggie's house, which that one was very... I didn't like that scene because for some reason the delivery of the lines was very, like, back and forth, like, kind of dry. And he was just like, dude, where are you going? And like, what are you doing today? He's like, oh, I'm going to this party at this girl Maggie's house. And he's like, cool, can I come? He's like, yeah, do you want some ecstasy?
A regular conversation.
But yeah, that's Harry Holland. And then Joe Russo, I believe Joe Russo is the one who has the cameo. He cameoed in the scene where they were having the party at the bar. He was the owner. He likes to cameo in his movies, I guess. He had a cameo in Endgame. He played the one gay character in the support group. That was him. So he was in this. That was cool. Oh yeah, they call the main character Cherry. under Tom Holland's name in the cast too. So I guess his name is Cherry. That's interesting.
This movie really rocked Color Red. You know, sometimes like I don't really get along with it, but you know, I appreciated it this go around.
I think aesthetically this movie was very, very good, and I think it got nominated for some award, for something. It wasn't an Oscar or anything. It was like a cinematography association or whatever, and it got like nominated for a cinematography award, which it definitely deserves. I mean, it was really pretty in the way that they filmed it. So that was really nice. And yeah, I don't know. I want to watch it more in life, but I don't know if I can watch it anymore in this week. And I have a 1-week subscription that runs out on Friday, so I need to cancel that real quick. But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe one time in the future, or probably not just one time, but in the future, hopefully I will watch this movie again. Because I don't know, I really liked it. I thought it was great. Obviously not perfect, but I thought it was very different, very unique, very special. I highly recommend it. Don't listen to the critics because they're stupid. Listen to us instead. But also make your own opinions, but also listen to us.
Listen to us here. Listen to us on Spotify, on YouTube, on Anchor, on Pocket Cast, Radio Pocket, something. I should know these.
I just say other platforms, and I link them in the description. Yeah, if you don't like listening to us on YouTube, listen to us on any of the podcasts in the description here. But I don't know how you made it this long if you don't listen to us on YouTube. But if you are on YouTube, you can go ahead and like and subscribe. If you're not on YouTube, you can probably subscribe on whatever platform you're on, but you can also come on YouTube and like and subscribe if you really love us, because we love you. And yeah, we usually upload a episode of this podcast every Wednesday, and then we have a video that comes out every Sunday. So this weekend is Jenna's video. Jenna, do you have any idea what you're doing? Do you want to give us a sneak peek, or is it going to be a surprise?
I actually have an idea in advance. I've had this idea since like last week, but I haven't done it yet, which is unfortunate for me. But I'm not reviewing another movie. Not again. Like, that's been my past 2 videos. I'm gonna take a break from that. And I found a slideshow from earlier in the quarantine where I listed all of my favorite movies. So I'm having a impartial third party put them together in brackets, and I'm going to do a battle of the wills, and I'm going to choose which one I like better of movies that are like my favorite movies. So come watch me suffer, I guess.
Oh my gosh, you should send me that bracket and I'll send you mine and you could react to that at the end.
Okay.
I don't even know if I've watched all your movies. You probably have like some random obscure movie from like Finland made in like 1927.
No, I don't have super eccentric picks yet.
It's all like The Croods.
No. Please tell me you have like a better opinion of me than that, Ava.
Okay, guys, and my number 1 pick has to be The Croods. And I'm very upset because this is my number 1 pick, but it got snubbed for the Oscar. You know what got snubbed for the Oscars? Ma Rainey's. It's not in Best Picture. That upsets me. If Chadwick Boseman doesn't win, that's gonna be upsetting too. And yeah, Ma Rainey's should be in the Best Picture thing, but I guess not. Because the Academy decided to be dumb buttholes about it. But Trial of the Chicago 7 is there, and Trial of the Chicago 7 was really good. So, we did an episode on that. We also did an episode on Ma Rainey's if you want to go back and watch some old episodes. I don't know if either of them are on our other platforms, because I think we started the other platforms at like 15 episodes in. So like the oldest episode you can watch is like We Can Be Heroes, and I'm sorry about that, but you can always
Yeah,
go to
I don't
YouTube.
think Ma Rainey's or Trial of the Chicago 7, they're both too recent.
Yeah.
I mean, too old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
I got what you meant. Anyways, guys, I think that's all we have to talk about now. I think we stayed on topic for like 37 minutes. So that was good. Anyways, yeah, that's all we have for you today. Jenna, do you have anything to add?
You know, for a movie called Cherry, I don't think there were any freaking cherries in this movie.
But he got his cherry popped. Okay, bye!